Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my courtroom. Every time I take this seat, I remind myself of something. The law is written in ink, but justice is written in the heart. The tickets, the codes, the fines, they're all just numbers. But when a person stands at that podium, when they look at me not as a judge in a robe, but as another human being, that's where the real weight of this role comes alive. That morning, the clerk called out a name, Joanne. From the benches, an elderly woman rose slowly and made her way forward. She wasn't rushing, she wasn't defensive. She carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who had seen her share of life's troubles. Her hands trembled a little as she approached, and her eyes, gentle, tired, met mine as she took her place at the podium. Then, before I could even open the case file, she said something that made the whole courtroom pause. "Judge, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm guilty. Now, I've been sitting here for decades. I've heard confessions. I've heard excuses. I've heard long-winded stories of why a ticket should vanish like smoke in the air. But what Joanne did was different. No hesitation, no performance, no attempt to explain her way out. Just raw honesty. It startled the courtroom. A few people chuckled. I smiled myself, because her bluntness carried a charm that was rare in this place. So I asked, "Joanne, would you like to see the video evidence?" She shook her head, gave a small laugh, and answered, "No, Judge. Everybody else looked at it, and they were guilty. So I don't want to see it. I already know." The courtroom burst into laughter. Even I chuckled. There was something almost childlike in her candor. But behind the humor, I saw sincerity. Joanne wasn't here to waste anyone's time. She believed she was guilty, and she was ready to accept whatever came next. But here's the thing. My job isn't to take a person's word at face value. My job is to look at the evidence every single time, because sometimes even the most honest people carry burdens that don't belong to them. So I leaned forward and said, "Joanne, I owe this to you. We're going to look at the tape together." She groaned, rolled her eyes like a student told to redo her homework, and the laughter in the room grew louder. But I pressed play. The first clip lit up the screen. A car approached an intersection. The camera angle showed the lane, the lines, the turn. But something struck me right away. The road markings were a mess. The arrows were faded almost to invisibility, the signage inconsistent. It wasn't clear which way a driver was supposed to go. The second clip showed the same confusion. Paint worn away, markings unclear, instructions contradicting one another. I turned back to Joanne. "On these two, I'm dismissing the charges. The city has a duty to make the roadways clear. If the lines are faded and confusing, the fault doesn't fall on you." She blinked in surprise. For the first time since she walked in, I saw her shoulders lighten. It was as though the weight of inevitability had cracked a little. But we weren't done. There were still other tickets, and those were legitimate. They added up to $170. When I read the number aloud, Joanne's face fell. She let out a sigh, her voice breaking a little as she said, "Judge, that's too much. I can't handle that." It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said them. The way her eyes lowered. The way her body sagged, as though $170 wasn't just a figure. It was a mountain. And in that moment, I didn't see a guilty driver. I saw a grandmother, maybe living on a fixed income, for whom $170 could mean less food on the table, medicine skipped, bills unpaid. Now, the letter of the law said she owed it. But the spirit of justice, well, that's where compassion comes in. I leaned forward. "Joanne," I said, "you didn't waste anyone's time. You came here with honesty and humility. And that counts for something." She looked up at me, uncertain. The room had grown quiet. Everyone was watching. "So here's what I'm going to do," I continued. "I'm going to reduce your fine from $170 to $85. And I'll give you 30 days to pay it." There was a beat of silence, then an audible exhale from Joanne, as though she'd been holding her breath the whole time. Her eyes softened, a smile crept across her face, and for the first time that morning she looked lighter. The courtroom applauded, a warm ripple of approval that filled the chamber. It wasn't about the applause. It wasn't about the fine. It was about what everyone in that room understood in that instant. Fairness had been served. As Joanne turned to leave, I spoke to the room. She thought she was unlucky when she came in here. But the truth is, both of us got lucky today. Joanne found justice, and I found a reminder of why this bench matters. Because the truth is, justice isn't about crushing people under the weight of the law. It isn't about wringing every dollar from every ticket. It's about balance. It's about listening. It's about knowing when the law must bend to humanity. That's why these cases, these little moments, travel the world. It's not because of me. It's because of the people. People like Joanne. People who walk into this courtroom carrying their burdens, their honesty, their flaws, and their dignity. Joanne came in saying, "I'm not going to waste your time, I'm guilty." But she left with something far more important than a fine. She left with her dignity intact. She left with her faith in fairness restored. And she left with strangers applauding her for her honesty. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is justice. That is what this courtroom stands for.